Breaking news! I don't know about you, but I'm already counting down the days until the season kicks off. There are still a few months to go, but the excitement is through the roof. Our team is well put together and ready to fly high. Today, I need to talk about some important topics that have been heating up behind the scenes, and trust me, a lot is about to happen moving forward. I'll tell you everything I've learned, but before we dive into the details, make sure you've already hit that like button. But only do it if you've been an Eagles fan for more than 19 years. It's amazing to see fans from every generation. Some of you were at games back in the 70s, and that deserves the utmost respect. If you can, drop a comment saying, "Go Birds! Let's fly even higher." Now, let's get started with this news. The Philadelphia Eagles are still searching for answers at one of the most critical positions on the field, the second starting cornerback spot. With Quinyon Mitchell locked in on one side, the other boundary job remains wide open, and right now it feels like a true four-way competition between Adoree Jackson, Khalil Ringo, Jacorian Bennett, and Eli Ricks. Each of them brings something unique to the table, but none is separated from the pack. Vic Fangio continues to rotate these players in and out with the first-team defense, hoping one will prove capable of locking down the role. This uncertainty only magnifies the impact of the front office's offseason decisions. Letting Darius Slay head to Pittsburgh on a one-year deal and allowing Isaiah Rodgers to sign with Minnesota left a noticeable gap. Rodgers in particular, given his age, price tag, and how well he played last season, could have been the natural solution. If he were still in Philadelphia, this battle might not even exist. Instead, the Eagles are left hoping one of the current candidates can prove reliable enough to hold down the job when the games start to matter. And that's where Howie Roseman's track record becomes important. If history tells us anything, it's that he rarely stays passive when holes remain on the roster. In fact, August has often been one of his busiest months. In past years, he's traded for C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Gardner Minshew, Jahan Dotson, and most recently Jacorian Bennett. Bennett brings speed and upside from his time in Las Vegas, but the Eagles could still explore other options. Whether it's another cornerback, an edge rusher to bolster depth, or even help on the interior of the offensive line, don't rule out another move. And with Landon Dickerson's health being monitored closely, the left guard position in particular could spark activity if coaches aren't comfortable with what they see. That line is always under scrutiny in Philadelphia, but it's also where this team has traditionally excelled. Without Dickerson, Brett Toth has stepped in at left guard while Tyler Steen worked the right side and Drew Kendall handled center duties behind Cam Jurgens. Kendall looked strong in his preseason reps, and Steen made a key block on Will Shipley's 38-yard run, a play that showcased how quickly this line can open lanes. Matt Pryor also deserves credit for springing that big gain, but there are still concerns. Miles Hinton's back-to-back penalties left coaches frustrated, and questions remain about whether Cam Williams has the conditioning to keep up in the summer heat. Even with Jeff Stoutland's reputation for maximizing offensive line talent, the Eagles know they need to identify the best five quickly. One unexpected bright spot this preseason has been rookie wide receiver Darius Cooper. Coming out of Tarleton State as an undrafted free agent, he wasn't on many radars, but his production has forced people to pay attention. Nearly 1,500 yards and 14 touchdowns in college already hinted at his ability, and his physical tools mirror those of A.J. Brown. That comparison isn't just about numbers on paper, it's showing up on the field. His strength, his route running, and his ability to win in tight coverage have been on display, particularly with a 20-yard touchdown catch from Tanner McKee where he combined sharp footwork with separation speed. He's even been getting reps with Jalen Hurts and the first-team offense, an early sign that the staff believes he might contribute beyond the preseason. If he can carve out a role on special teams, he's got a strong chance to make the final 53-man roster and could emerge as one of the team's hidden gems. And Cooper isn't the only young receiver turning heads. Johnny Wilson entered the preseason on the bubble, but his performance against Cincinnati changed that conversation. At 6'6" with a massive wingspan, Wilson finally started playing to his size, winning contested catches and using his frame to shield defenders. He showed physicality, snatching balls away from defensive backs and proving he could be more than just a project. That type of growth matters in a crowded wide receiver room, especially with veterans like Jahan Dotson facing free agency down the line. For now, Wilson's stock is on the rise, and continued strong showings could cement his roster spot. But while fans love the offensive playmakers, the defensive side of the ball remains where the Eagles could truly change their trajectory. The conversation around veteran safety Justin Simmons hasn't gone away, and for good reason. A four-time second-team All-Pro, Simmons played some of his best football under Vic Fangio. He has ties to defensive backs coach Christian Parker and has openly said he'd like to play for Philadelphia. Adding him wouldn't only provide proven talent in the secondary, it would also give the Eagles leadership and stability while younger safeties like Sidney Brown and Andrew Mukuba develop. With Reed Blankenship already a reliable starter, Simmons could either step in immediately or be a high-end rotational piece. Either way, it would be the type of savvy move that keeps a Super Bowl contender from taking unnecessary risks. And speaking of being a contender, the culture inside the building appears as strong as ever. Jalen Hurts set the tone at the start of training camp, calling this season a blank canvas. Landon Dickerson echoed that sentiment, reminding everyone that the 2024 team had an expiration date and that this year is a fresh start. Nick Sirianni has even spent the offseason learning from championship coaches to prepare for the challenges ahead. Everything coming out of the locker room suggests a team that has put last season's highs and lows behind them. But in a city like Philadelphia, getting off to a fast start matters. Winning early keeps the locker room united and prevents the natural finger-pointing that can creep in when things go wrong. Leadership will be crucial, and the Eagles seem to have plenty of it. Now the question is simple. With the ongoing battle at cornerback, the uncertainty on the offensive line, and the possibility of adding a veteran like Justin Simmons, what do you think the Eagles should prioritize before the season begins? Depth across the roster has always been a calling card of successful Eagles teams, and this year is no different. While the frontline starters are strong, it's the competition behind them that will determine how far this group can go when injuries inevitably strike. At wide receiver, we've already seen players like Darius Cooper and Johnny Wilson raise their profiles, but don't overlook Elijah Cooks. His emergence has complicated things even further, pushing the coaching staff to think long and hard about how many receivers they'll ultimately keep. Cooks has flashed with his size and catch radius, creating another layer of intrigue in what was already a crowded room. With DeVonta Smith and A.J. Brown locked in, plus veterans like Jahan Dotson in the fold, those last few spots could be decided by special teams impact as much as offensive production. Cooper's ability to contribute in that phase might give him the inside track, but Wilson and Cooks are doing everything they can to force their way into the conversation. Quarterback depth is another storyline worth monitoring. Tanner McKee has quietly strung together a solid preseason, demonstrating poise in the pocket and chemistry with some of the young receivers. His willingness to trust Wilson on contested throws in the Bengals game spoke volumes about his confidence and leadership. While Jalen Hurts is obviously the face of the franchise, and veteran Marcus Mariota provides experienced insurance, McKee's development gives the Eagles stability in a league where backup quarterbacks often determine the fate of entire seasons. The defensive front, long the strength of this organization, is also under the microscope. Philadelphia's reputation for investing in the trenches hasn't changed. Roseman has handed out extensions to Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, and Cam Jurgens, while Lane Johnson remains one of the most reliable right tackles in football. On defense, the commitment is the same. Pass rush depth remains a focus, especially as veterans age and younger players are pushed into bigger roles. Fangio's scheme demands pressure without excessive blitzing, so the ability of the defensive line to consistently win up front will dictate how effective this defense can be. It's part of why fans continue to speculate about the possibility of Roseman pulling off one more splash move before week 1, perhaps targeting an edge rusher to bolster an already strong rotation. And then there's the topic of fundamentals, which too often gets overlooked until it's missing. Tackling, for example,